With over 2 million new cancer cases diagnosed annually in the United States, there has been a rising population of cancer survivors. Cancer survivors often have to deal with cancer and treatment-related symptoms which negatively impact their quality of life. Amidst growing interest in cannabis use as an alternative treatment option to manage cancer and treatment-related symptoms, there is a need to describe the cannabis use patterns and product types utilized by survivors. Our study aimed to bridge existing knowledge gaps by describing cannabis use patterns, product types, and methods of delivery of the different cannabis products utilized by cancer survivors. We used data from a cross-sectional survey conducted among cancer survivors attending the MD Anderson Cancer Center between 2021 and 2022. Patients were included in the study if they were adults and were actively receiving treatment or had received treatment within the previous 5 years. Stratified sampling based on sex, race, and treatment status was implemented. As such, our analysis was weighted to account for oversampling and non-response. Weighted prevalence and 95% CI were estimated. A total of 1886 cancer survivors who completed the survey were included in the study and were drawn from 41 states of the U.S. Participants were mostly females, older than 65 years, and non-Hispanic white. We found that 1 in 2 survivors had used cannabis in the past. Of these, 64% were former users and 36% were currently using cannabis, with the majority using cannabis during and after their cancer treatment. Of note, about half of survivors reported an increase in cannabis use after their cancer diagnosis. The commonest cannabis product used by cancer survivors who had ever used cannabis was dry leaf cannabis, which was reported by over a third of survivors. This was closely followed by CBD oil, reported by 46% of survivors, and cannabis candy, which was reported by 40% of survivors. We also investigated the method of cannabis used by survivors and found that among ever users of cannabis, more survivors inhaled or smoked cannabis than ate or drank cannabis. With inhalation as the commonest method of cannabis use, we further explored the method survivors used to inhale or smoke cannabis products. We found that the most common mode of the inhalation or smoking of cannabis was rolled cannabis cigarettes, which was reported by almost 80% of survivors who inhale or smoke cannabis. Other common modes of delivery of cannabis were pipes and water pipes. Less common modes of delivery of cannabis products reported were vaporizers or vapes and e-cigarette devices, which were reported by 14% of survivors. In conclusion, cannabis use among survivors is common, with increased use after cancer diagnosis. There is variation in the types of cannabis products used by survivors, with inhalation or smoking as the preferred method. These findings call for the education of healthcare providers and survivors on the current evidence on cannabis use in cancer management. Also, there is a need to strengthen the current regulatory framework, with clear guidance on cannabis use during cancer management to optimize benefits and minimize adverse events from cannabis use during cancer treatment.